All right, we're back again, everyone. Today it's just me and Josh. Today we got no guest. We wanted to talk about a topic that applies day to day, medium term, long term. Something that I'm always conscious of and trying to be conscious of and always working on. Um, and I'm willing to say actually I'm not that good at it. I don't think I'll ever be that extremely good at it. But it's the being a now versus a when person. Um, so I think just to get into that, what do you initially think that is, being a now versus when person?
I guess it's as simple as that. A now person is someone that does something now, and a when person is someone that makes excuses. There's a quote, I don't know where it came from, but I know who I heard it from, Byron, my mate, and it's you can have excuses or results, but you can't have both. And I think that is essentially like what a now and what a when person is. A now person is someone that's going to get results, and a when person is going to be the one that has excuses. We all like to say that we're going to do things in any medium in life, whether it's like a positive or a negative thing, like, oh, I'm going to quit smoking after this pack's finished, after this deck, after the holiday, after this friend's party, or it's like, I'm going to start my business, or I'm going to start my podcast, like, once I have the studio set up, once I get the mic. There's just so many reasons, and ultimately it's all excuses. So I think for me, like, that's the definition. I guess
Yeah,
that's differentiating a when versus an now person.
yeah,
And the goal is for me just to be an now person. As you said, it's something that's an ongoing process. Whether you can fully achieve that, I don't know. For
yeah.
me personally, I would say no,
No.
because I'm always making excuses in different aspects of my life. I try to take accountability and ownership for everything in my life, but I'm not perfect. So yeah, I think it's just a slow progress, and it's a matter of like each day trying to be better,
Mm.
each day trying to become a now person.
Yeah, I think for me, a now versus when type thing is a when person is someone who writes a checklist and doesn't complete it. A now person is someone who writes a checklist and completes it, so ticks it off. Because I think the only way to do things is to do it straight away in the present. In terms of things like medium to long term goals, like have to start somewhere, and you've ultimately got to put the foot down now. Otherwise, when? Um, and it's just for me, it's just someone who gets things done. Simple as that. Just doing things if they come your way, and it's something that you say it's a goal, for example, like I want to be able to go for a run and be able to run 10 kilometers. It doesn't start tomorrow, doesn't start next week, it starts now. What are you doing this afternoon? What can you do right now to get closer to that goal? It would also include a couple of things we've written down. It's like stuff like optimizing time. So time is a big player in being a now versus when person, because time is something you don't want to consider. It needs to be done now, straight away. Uh, and it almost reflects your ability to order your priorities in a sense of if you're a now person, you are prioritizing that goal, that scene, whatever it may be now. But if you're a when person, you're not prioritizing that right now. Correct?
Yeah, well, it's the lack of accountability on the time thing.
Mm,
People, when given a deadline, that's why like so many assignments and things are done on the very last day, at the very last minute, because they've had all this time to do it, but no desire to do it. But when it comes to like, oh, if I don't do it now, I'm gonna be in trouble tomorrow, there's consequences, then they get it done. So really comes down to accountability. If you push
mm,
that accountability, or sorry, pull that accountability forward, and just set yourself a date. In a week, I'm finishing this assignment, even though it's due in 4 weeks. Like, and give yourself a consequence if it isn't done. That's where like accountability and discipline is so important for so many
mm.
things in life. And I'm definitely guilty of that. When I was in school, like
Dude,
a good 80-90% of my assignments were done like day before, but like that's only to my own detriment.
yeah. The one word that kind of overarches everything is probably like procrastination. It's like if you choose to procrastinate or choose to not. That's the difference between the two. Procrastination we all encounter, and most people consider it as like a school thing. It's like doing school work or some sort of work, like procrastinating that. But it's also procrastinating on your own, maybe even dreams or hopes and things that you want to do. In 5 years, oh yeah, I want to be this type of person. It's like, why can't you be that type of person now?
Now,
If you want to be a lawyer and you're now currently a student, why don't you do things that lawyers do? Um, you can be that person right now. Don't procrastinate that and put that in the pocket for later on in future.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it truly is a matter of starting now. If you want something, there's always a path to get there. Like if you want to be, I don't know, a doctor, like you don't need to wait till you go through, like get into uni and finish medicine to become a doctor. Like try work in a clinic, like as even a receptionist, like do something to start to be in that space and start to learn and understand like more about it. And the beautiful thing with that is you're probably going to find that you had like no idea of what it was actually going to be like. So that's where I think like putting yourself in the space and getting involved with it is just going to be so valuable to you, because you have a preconceived notion and an expectation of, like, just to follow on the example, like what a doctor might be like, but until you're actually doing it, you won't know. So if you can at least get yourself in the space and observe a doctor for, 5 days a week,
That's being a now person.
then you can be like, oh, I actually don't want to do this. So it's like being a now person is only going to benefit you so much, because like so many more doors are going to be opened through you being a now person. Again, it's like, just to paint this analogy, there's like a door, and behind the door is an opportunity waiting for you, like whatever it is. And if you're sitting on the couch on the other side of that door and you're like, oh, like I'll open that door, when I finish school or when I finish uni, whatever it is, whatever event that is in your life, like that's 5, 6, 7 years, 1 year, however long it is until you say you're going to do it. Whereas if you just got up and opened that door, you would have that experience so much quicker. You would get that knowledge, and then that person, that opportunity would then pass you on to this and that. And it's like that snowball effect of once you start doing things, like Chris Hemsworth says, movement creates momentum. Once you start moving, snowball's going to start building up and up and up and up. And then just so many more things are going to come about in your life.
Yeah, I think the best way to talk about this for me personally is like, it's hard to describe because it is as simple as now versus when, but I think through example is great. For me, I'll give you an example of like how I'm being a now person at the moment and how I'm being a when person at the moment. Personally at the moment, being a now person is this podcast. I think for us, we sort of got together and went, okay, let's do something we want to do, something creative, and get together. When do we start? That's the biggest question, because we have no idea what the heck we're doing, like when do we actually start? And we pretty much just went, well, there's no better time than now. Why wouldn't we just go and get a mic? So we literally, the first time we recorded in front of a mic, like it's not been released. I don't even think we have the file anymore, but we just went to Officeworks, bought a microphone, went to a park, sat down and recorded. How else are you supposed to do it? You know what I mean? I think this podcast is definitely like the biggest example for me of how I'm taking opportunity every day, just being like, just do it now. Ask people to be a guest. Why not?
Yeah, no, definitely. And on that, it's like, by us being a now person in that, like in the scenario of like starting this podcast, it's like like if you have like a parallel timeline, like a multiverse type scene, and you have the now person versus the when, right? The now was us buying the mic, starting recording, and like the time we're at now, we have, this is like 13th or 14th episode, whatever it is, versus the when person is like, when I get good cameras, once I have the studio set up, once I have the makeup, the hair and makeup done, like all of those things, once I have all my socials and my graphics, everything done, then I'll start. And it's like, I don't know when that would have been. Had we have been a when person in that situation, like,
I don't even think we would have started the pod.
Yeah, I ultimately think we never would have. But even just say for sakes, like we did now, it's like where we are now on the now timeline, we're 14 episodes ahead of that when person.
Correct.
And not only is it 14 episodes, it's like 6, 7, 8 months of learning. It's 6, 7, 8 months of like networking, meeting people, having opportunities, starting into, I guess, developing our new routine throughout the week, because it's changed drastically. So like, just so many more things are going to come from being a now person.
And lessons learning across the timeline as well. It's just, it's ultimately like, if you choose to be a now person, you're not necessarily going to win straight away, but you're definitely not going to lose. I think you're only going to win or learn. And I experience that literally every week with us doing the stuff we do. Even today, I woke up, Josh was preoccupied with some other stuff, and I was working on some clips for the pod. And like on my laptop, I've had some struggles with it processing that. And I literally, in a nutshell, have spent like 6-7 hours today, like trying to work on clips. What's the result? Maybe a 30-second clip. That's not even that great. It's like, that's a big lesson right there. And that's teaching me a whole bunch of stuff. I need to go put some more effort into, like, maybe I need to buy another laptop, and like, it just makes you appreciate certain things, and like, you just wouldn't have learned that by sitting back and just waiting for that time where, oh, I have the right gear and this and that. But yeah, an example for me of recently when I've been a when person is, bet Josh could guess this, is my car. So I'd recently bought the RAV, the Panda that we're in, and
4 months recently, like 4 months ago.
yeah, 4 months ago. Not recently. And so I bought this car, and then great, I'm in this car now, and I'll sell my Astra. It's been 4 months and I've only just put the car up on the market. And as much as you like to say there's things in the way, there's always time to do it. And it's so simple. It's just it's embarrassing. It's such a simple task.
Genuinely embarrassing.
It's just such a simple task that's like takes 2 seconds, but it's a pure example of me putting on the back burner. What's crazy about like being a when person in certain instances is like, I can't explain why. You just can't explain why. You're just procrastinating. You're putting it on the back burner. I couldn't give you reasons for why.
It's just not a priority, ultimately.
Yeah. And that's what I was speaking to earlier, and I was going to get at, is like, it's about setting your priorities in order. And I feel like if you're someone who doesn't have you feel like you're a bit cloudy, you're a little bit grey in terms of priorities, start being a now person, because you're going to get your answers quick. You start learning things all the time. And it's, even though I think it's not affecting me, this car thing, it's like everyone around me asking, have you put the car up? Like you, my partner, my parents, all like, have you put your car up? Have you put your car up? And it's like, I'm like, oh, they're so annoying. It's like, no, they're not annoying. Like, I'm the annoying one. And then you start like just going down that trail. But
and it's not only that, it's the emotional weight, the baggage that you carry. As much as it's such a small thing selling a car. Like, it's a big deal, but for you in your life, clearly it was like just, on the bottom of the priority list. It's such a small thing to you, but that's still a rock in your backpack, and just carrying that around for so long. Like, for me personally, I absolutely hate when I have something to do, but I'm just not doing it. And it's like, honestly, like, it happens so many times in my life. Like, working on friends and family's cars, it's like, I don't know, it's queued up at the moment. I have a few cars that I need to work on, and I want to help them, but the timeline in my life, I'm just busy at the moment. It's honestly the last thing I want to be doing, like, selfishly. Like, I don't want to do it, but selflessly, I love my friends and my family, so I'm going to do it for them. But I've just been putting it off and off and off.
And it's just knocking on your door.
It's just knocking on my door. It's at the bottom of my priority list, but it's so annoying because I can genuinely tell you, at least once a day for the past 3-4 weeks, it's come into my mind, like, oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. And like, that's time spent not being creative. Like, when those thoughts come into my head of like whatever it is I need to be doing, that is reducing my ability to be creative, which is ultimately pulling me down further than what it would be if I just like put the day aside to work on the car and then be freed from that. So again, like, there's just so many benefits to being a now person. Just start doing it. And it's so simple to say, but it is so
hard to practice.
It is so hard. I think, like, talking about the techniques and the tools associated with it, I guess things that help me is, like, I'm a very visual person. I love to close my eyes and visualize. I'm, like, I would say quite good at seeing things in my mind. And on that, I love words. I love pictures and drawings. So in my room, I have a whiteboard, and I like to write on it to hold myself accountable. I like to write on it for visions. And at the moment, it says, share the experience in the middle. And it's just circled. And when I look at it, it's a beautiful reminder of, like, being a now person. For me, sharing the experience is sort of the vision of, like, do what I'm doing and share it. Like, share my love, share my joy, my passion for everything, whatever it is, my desire to help people, share that with people. So I'm actually, like, doing it. And that just speaks to, like, now versus when, because I can sit here and tell you, like, dude, one day I'd love to, like, be able to help people. I would love to just do so many things with my life and see so many places and do all these cool things. One day I'll do it. But when is one day, right? One day is every day. Whereas if I say, like, today, because today is the only day. Today isn't tomorrow. Today isn't yesterday. Today isn't 5 years away. Today is today. Today I'm sharing the experience. So it's just how we frame words. Another experience I've had is recently I've become a reader. I read when I was a kid, but I never read as a teenager. And I guess early 20s. Like, I've always wanted to be a reader, right? I know how valuable it is. I know how cool it is. Like, when I was a kid and read, I loved it. It was just awesome for my vocabulary, my imagination, my knowledge.
All ticks, it's all pluses.
It's just great. It's great. And I would constantly say, like, I want to become a reader. Like, one day I'm going to be a reader. And then I was sitting in the sauna, and there was this guy, Nick Venn, and we were chatting about reading books. And I remember we were talking about David Goggins' book, and I said to him, we were chatting, and he's like, "Oh, have you read it?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, it was a great book." And then he like jumped out of the sauna to have a quick shower and then came back in. And when he got out, I just remember the conviction I felt, because I didn't read it, I listened to it. I listened to an audiobook, but just like in the conversation, it was like, "Oh, you've read it?" Like, yeah, I've read it. Like, it doesn't matter to anyone. He wouldn't have cared if I.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit if you listen to it or read it.
He doesn't care. But for me, I told him I read it, and I clearly hadn't. So when he came back in, I was like, "Hey man, like, I know this is nothing for you, but like, I felt convicted about telling you that I read the book when I didn't actually listen to it." And he's like, "Dude, like, that speaks volumes to like who you are and the kind of person you are." And I was like, "Yeah, man, like, I really want to be a reader. Like, I don't read, but I want to start reading." And he said to me, like, "Man, it's how you frame it. It's the way you frame, like,
Sick.
what you're saying to yourself." He said, "Stop saying I want to be a reader and start saying I am a reader, and like, you'll be amazed what happens." So I just started telling myself I'm a reader. I'm a reader. I'm a reader. I'm a reader. And then like compound that with goals of like reading X amount of books by X amount of time, or buying a book by this date, or whatever it was. Like, here I am 8-9 months later, and like, safe to say I'm a reader. Like, I love reading, thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm reading multiple books, and it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. I sort of had the same thing, but one thing with my car example, that got me to actually put the car up. And it sounds so stupid because it's so little, but like, I hadn't done it for 4 months. So like, what I put it over is a friend of ours, Will. We were actually speaking about, like, he's recently moved out. He's like on a new stage of his life. And he was talking about like seeing people who we'd usually like see, such as his mother. And he was saying that like, he's gotten so much out of being intentional with his time. And like, I couldn't get the word out of my head, being intentional with your time, like being intentional. And I was like, why is my brain linking to that? And then I was like, be intentional with your time. It's like, when you're sitting there, freaking put your car up when you have 5 minutes, you idiot. And like, it just stupidly, I was like, why have I not done that? And like, it all came over me. It's like, I just nod and say, yeah, I'll put it up. And I never actually think about when I'm going to put it up. Anyway, so like, I love the idea of being intentional with your time. So if you're sitting there thinking about these things, you're sitting there thinking about those things. Wherever you are, you're in the car, you're driving, whatnot. You could be in your room just sitting there thinking about it. It's like, that's time. Like, I think you kind of mentioned this before. It's like, that's time where you can actually do something. You have the time to now, like, realistically do something that puts you closer to that goal. And say the goal is, it's 500 kilometers away. Like, take one step. It's such a cliche, like, the first step's always the hardest, but it is. It's like, convince yourself to take that first step because you want to be intentional. So maybe you can link it with the framing idea. It's like, I am an intentional person. It's like, every second I have, I'm going to be intentional with it, whether it even be relaxing, or whether it be hustling, whether it be seeing a friend or listening to a friend or talking to a friend. It's like, be intentional with that time. And on that intentional stuff, I think like that speaks to the pod a lot at the moment. For example's sake, being a now thing, we're very intentional with being like, let's do this pod now, let's do that pod now. It's like, let's just do it. Trying to figure out problems, because problems come up. It's like, okay, how are we going to solve it? Because it's like, it's an issue. Cool, we've accepted that. How are we going to solve it? Be intentional, fix it now. But yeah, I love that idea of being intentional with your time.
Yeah, and with the problems, I've struggled with understanding how to articulate like the feeling that I was feeling. But recently I heard in a video, a Yes Theory video, Thomas said like, the scariest thing about entrepreneurship is the gap between the creative idea and the technical skills and
Uh-huh.
ability to pull it off. And as soon as he said that, like, it just made so much sense to me, and it clicked because, like, that's everything I'm experiencing at the moment. Like, everything we're embarking on, like, I have the creative idea and the creative drive and the passion for it, but I have, like, absolutely none of the technical skills. And it was always this thing of, like, man, like, I don't want to have to learn how to video edit and do all these, like, unnecessary things to just be able to, like,
Do the thing I want to do.
do the thing I want to do and just put a message out to people. But, like, when he said that, I was like, oh, it's not about, like, not wanting to do this. It's about, by me acquiring these skills, which I can acquire, it's just a matter of, like, hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, like, starting that movement and creating that momentum. Once I can close that gap, that's when that creative freedom can really take over. Because it's like anything. When you turn something from, like, conscious intent to, like, subconscious competence, that's where the game changer is. Because the more time, it's like anyone that has ever driven a manual car, when you were learning to drive, you have to be so consciously aware of even driving a car, like, so consciously aware of, like, changing gears and really thinking about how to do it. So, like, your mind isn't allowed to think about anything else other than changing gears, because you're just so, like, focused on the clutch pedal, the accelerator, like, the gear change, everything. But once you're competent, then it moves to your subconscious, and you can consciously, like, you can do it, you can perform the task of driving a manual car without actually thinking about it. And that's when your mind is free to think about other things. So I can drive a manual car and think about a meeting I have coming up. I can drive a manual car and think about whatever it is I want to think about. Obviously, I'm focusing on the road for the most part, but you have the ability to think. So once that gap is closed between the creative idea and the technical skills to pull it off, that's, for me, when the creativity can just
shine.
And you'll always be refining yourself technically. Like, the skills are always there to be learned. Like, you never truly master a skill. You just practice it. It's an ongoing practice for life. But we're at such a baseline with the technical skills that we need. So it is an interesting thing. But now that I have that, like, that reference, that statement, the wording is there and the pictures in my head, I know what I'm working towards now.
Yeah, and do you feel like you were seeking that? Or just you kind of stumbled upon it and it all kind of clicked?
Seeking
an understanding of that?
Oh, no, not at all.
It just came across
It just came across.
Sort of clicked in your head.
Yeah, no, it was like, I don't know if frustrating is the right word. Frustrating is. I was frustrated. And I guess overwhelmed with the thought of, like, man, how am I ever going to be able to do this? How are we ever going to be able to, like, pull all of this stuff off? But yeah, once I heard that, I was like, that is what I needed. I needed somebody to explain what I was feeling.
Yeah, it like that. Yeah, where you just had that feeling and, like, you just didn't know how to say it. But yeah, that's interesting, because I definitely have that too. And I feel like the fact that someone else has done it before me means it's able to be done. And I feel like that can translate to being a now person. Like, well, that's also a difficulty in trying to be a now person is most of us start doing things because we're inspired to do something by someone else. Like, we'd like to think that everything we think is original, but it's not. It comes from somewhere. So say you watched a Nick Bear video and went, oh my God, he's the perfect male human.
The epitome of
just male,
Yeah.
just absolute beast, strong animal that can go run like a sub 3 hour marathon. It's like, I want to be that guy.
And entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, owns a successful business and a dad.
Correct.
And
Amazing husband.
He's just the guy.
He's just everything, right? So it's like, oh, I want to be that guy. And you may sit back and go, I want to be that guy, and you're high when you're watching the video. The video ends. You exit YouTube, you roll over. And then you start to think about, like, the gap between you and Nick Bear. But the gap isn't as big as you think. And I think that us seeing the final product sometimes puts us in that default state of when. It's like, when I get to his age, because he's 33, so in 13 years I should look like that too, because that's the way it works. It's like, no, Nick Bear started with the now mindset, you know what I mean? Like, whoever it may be, it's like they started doing things now because they knew that that's what they wanted to do. So I think that does get in the way of us sometimes too, is seeing those things, and it is beneficial to link it back to you as the individual. It's like, you're inspired by someone else, but stick to your idea and know that you're yourself and you're going to have your own path to do it. So why wouldn't you start now on it? A huge way to do that is almost just like evaluate yourself now, and like the things that you feel like you aren't good at, or the things that you objectively shouldn't be doing. What do you look like in 5 years? Then compare that person in 5 years to the person who you want to be in 5 years. And it's like, what are you actually doing differently? And then think about, what can I do right now in the next 10 or 15 minutes that's going to put me on that path? If you want it to be a marathon runner, it's like, go out and walk. Put your running shoes on. Like,
Buy some running shoes.
Buy some running shoes. Just take any half, quarter, eighth of a step just to go further. And like you said, was it Chris Hemsworth you said?
Yeah.
Momentum is... Movement creates momentum. Which is... That's it in practice. It's like, buy the running shoes. You buy the running shoes. Like, yes, it's such a hard step to go out and do your first run. But it's just like, put yourself in an environment where that's easy to do. It's like, make friends that are runners. Make friends that are active. Speak to friends about it. Speak to family about it. Like, get inspiration off, like, join a running community. Just anything that puts you in that direction. That's being a now person. I think just assessing your environment, and a big one that I'm going to take away from what you said is, I need to get my room in order. It's a weird one because I'm like very tidy and I have a very minimal and tidy space in my room, but it doesn't reflect any of my goals and like where I want to be at, what I want to be doing, which is actually so stupid now I think about it. And I feel like moving forward after this convo is like, that's how I'm going to be a now person. I'm going to go home, set up a whiteboard, set up something, just get posters everywhere.
Vision boards, whatever it is.
Yeah, just so I walk in that space, and that space is my future. That is my... When we all get cloudy sometimes during the day and we have a shit day or something happens and like you go home and you're just sitting there like, what am I doing? It's like, I want my space to be the reminder of why I'm doing it. So I go home like, oh, this is why I do it. And like you said, it's like the car. It comes back to the manual car setup. It's like, it just becomes how it is now. And you're just used to that. That's in the tool belt. Things as simple as that. I love how like Jordan Peterson talks about it. He talks about just like setting yourself in order, like even just your house. He speaks about your relationships in your house. If you feel like you aren't getting anywhere with people or you can't make connections or whatnot, set your relationships in your house in order. And like the lessons you're going to learn from that, it just starts so small where you don't think it is. Because we're told, it's just a certain way, but you have your own path. So yeah, I guess do something like immediately, whatever you can do right now.
Yeah, no, it's that quote. It's be the person you want to be before you leave your front doorstep. Like the person you want to be is the guy before you leave your front door. It all happens internally. It all happens inside, and it's not to say it's all under your household exactly, but it's all within yourself and what you're doing in your life. You're not going to find it outside at work. You're not going to find it, in the gym. Whatever it is, you have to be the guy to do it. Don't look for all these external motivations and inspirations. There really is that in the moment hype. You watch a video or you go to a conference. That's why like self-help talks and all of those things, they're great and they serve a purpose for sure, but you leave those and you feel amazing, and then you go to sleep and you wake up to the next day back to the mundane like day-to-day tasks, and you've lost all of that. You need to find more than just that video. You need to find more than just that, like that conference you went to. It has to be like right here, right now. It has to be a now thing, and it starts small. Like anything in life, start small. As you were saying, like people look at the Nick Bear situation. People look at the Joe Rogans, and they're like, oh, must be nice. Like, man, he's had it so easy. Look at him. He's living the life. Like, get a camera on Joe Rogan and go back to day one. He was just like you. He is just like you.
Probably worse off than you.
Probably worse off.
You selfish dickhead.
Yeah. Probably like doing it tougher and rougher. But he just started now. He just started making moves from day one. Like the reason he can sell at a stadium or whatever he sells out with his comedy shows is because he got up in front of, 5-10 people, however many it was back in day one, week one, and two people laughed. Like no one laughed, whatever it was. But
and he went, shit, failed, and then got better.
This is tough. I'm going to go home. I've learned some things here. I'm going to change my set. I'm going to think of better jokes, whatever it is. And he just kept coming back and back and back. And it's like, the more time you spend doing it, like, the better you're going to get at it.
Yeah. David Goggins always talks about the difference between motivation and drive. I love how he breaks that down. And that's something I always used to think about. Like, I need motivation for this, motivation for that. But he defines it so well. It's like motivation is just so short term. It's like,
It comes
like
and
you were
goes.
saying, going to a self-help talk. And it's like, yes, the thing you should take from that is the fact that you made a decision to go to that. I think it's like the actual self-help or whatever it may be. Yes, the content's valuable, but the most valuable part of it is the fact that you chose to get in your car and spend a day or two at that place. I think that's the biggest part. And the content you receive on that day is probably going to speak to motivation. It's gonna translate, to motivation for your life. Which is just short term. It's like you need to take that decision that you made as a now decision, and that should develop your drive. It's like, what's your drive going to be? I feel like making now decisions develops your drive. And just drive being super important.
Because motivation's great, right? But when it's like middle of winter, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., pitch black outside, it's freezing cold, it's raining, everyone's asleep, all your friends, all your family's asleep.
Your headphones, you're about to go for a run. Your headphones have died, so you can't listen to anyone speaking into your ear.
But it's like, what's going to get you out of bed then? Like, what's going to get you out of bed to go for a run? You said you wanted to run a marathon. Why are you going to get up when it's that cold, you're that cozy? Why are you getting up? Like, no motivational video is going to do it in that moment. Like, everything that you heard, like, 2 days prior or, like,
you forget
the last night, it doesn't mean anything in that moment. Hearing, like, someone say, oh, you can do it, you're the best. Like, you just got to get after it. That's not going to pull you out of bed. What's going to pull you out of bed is your why. Like, why are you doing this? What is the reason you want to get up and run? Like, what is that?
And that speaks to you just making a now decision. It's like, I get up or I don't. It's like, when? It's like, in 2 days I could get up because it'll be not as cold then. It's like, no, make the decision.
I'll take today off and I'll run tomorrow when it's warmer.
That's a when decision.
That's a when.
Don't make the when.
Start now.
Definitely. Do you have anything you want to touch on further?
Yeah, well, I think what's important as well, like if we're just talking tools and techniques and practical ways for people to become a when person, write down a list of things that you want to do. So for me, when I sort of shifted my mindset from when to now, I was very conscious about this. I've always wanted to do amazing hikes, amazing outdoor adventures, all around the world. I've really wanted to do that for quite a long time. And I remember it was last year, the start of last year roughly. Was it last year?
2021.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That was the year when I said to myself, I'm just going to do it. Like, I wanted to do a massive hike. I had no idea what hike I wanted to do. And I'd been wanting to do one for such a long time. And I said, man, like, I just foresaw the future. And I said, this mindset isn't going to change. Like, I'm going to be 22 and I'm still going to be saying the same. I'll be 25 still saying, I want to do a hike. So I just said, put a date to it. Like, find a hike, put a date to it and just do it. So I looked up, like, hardest hikes in Australia. Larapinta was on that. I messaged my friend and said, dude, do you want to do the Larapinta? He said yes. He had no idea what the Larapinta was. He just said, dude, I'm in. And then, Adam Wyatt, I love you, man. Shout out to Adzi. And yeah, we just put a date on it. It was, we did it in June, I think it was, June or July last year. And just went out and got it done. And then it was like, okay, that's done. What's next? And my friend messaged me, hey, do you want to do the Hunt 1000? Sure. What's that? And then I went and did that. And it's like, now it's just this roll-on effect of like, for me to want to do cool things, I just put a date to it.
Yeah, right.
I just say like, I want to hike the El Camino. Cool. That's happening next year. Next year, June, July maybe. I'm going to go.
I need to do that.
Hike the El Camino.
Yeah.
Because if I continuously said when, it's never going to happen. So practically just write down all these goals you want to do, all these things you want to accomplish, like, and make them things within your control, right? If you want to, like, and make them short term, I would say. I'm much more about short term versus long term, because long term, it's great to have goals and aspiration and dreams, but like long term is just so out of your control. It's so hard to know if that's going to happen. Whereas like,
it's just a pathway. It's almost like a direction that you need to take. But what you're speaking to, I think, is just the building blocks.
The building blocks, because that is you becoming a now person, right? If I say like, I'm going to hike the El Camino, June next year, it's going to happen.
That's short term because you need to now, because that's so close.
there's prep.
Realistically, in terms of planning, you need to prep now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, whilst it's a year away, there's so much that I need to prepare prior to doing that. I need to start training for it. I need to get my kit together. I need to research the trail and find out where I'm staying and what everything's like. So there's a lot associated in that. So just write down what it is you want to do and put a deadline on it. Like, give yourself a time. It's like Pat and I, the Acuna experiences. August 1st is launch date.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be done. It has to be done.
Yeah.
If we just said, oh, we're going to start a tourism business, like, it'll happen when it happens.
Yeah, shout out Fat Trick. We were actually on a phone phone call yesterday, and he was telling me about I was like, so when is the actual launch date? And he's like, oh, August 1st. And he started laughing. I was like, why are you laughing? He's like, well, I actually can't escape that now because I've told so many people at work that August 1st is my date. So, like, it has to be August 1st. I love that. That's Pat being a now person. He's going, I'm going to set my accountability on everyone so that, like, that's what it is. That's the reality. The reality is it has to be August 1st because everyone thinks it is.
Definitely. And there is a trap there, and a lot of people will tell you, don't tell anyone your, like, aspirations or your goals. Like, don't do it because if you, for whatever reason, can't do it, like, then you feel that weight of disappointment that you didn't accomplish it. But when you can remove, I guess, yourself from that date and from whatever it is you're saying you're going to do. So for us, right, it's like August 1st is launch date. If for whatever reason that doesn't happen, I'm not going to, like, be like, oh my goodness, everyone's going to, like, think that we can't do it, that we're not now people, we're when people, it's never going to happen. Like, I'm not going to let that affect me. As long as I know that I've done everything I can to get it done by August 1st, I'm at peace.
Yeah, it's like number one on the list should be, like, being accountable for yourself. But number two, it's just that little booster of, like, being accountable in front of everyone else.
Yeah, it's a motivator. Like,
it is.
It is truly a motivator. If I look at you right now and I say, like, in 1 year, I'm going to run a marathon. Like, and I truly mean that, man, I'm going to do it. It's going to motivate me.
Yeah, people think it sounds stupid. It's like, oh, I don't need to hold myself to that. So no, tell yourself that you need to hold yourself to that.
Definitely.
But yeah, definitely, man. I love this topic.
Yeah,
it's
no,
such
it's
a great
great.
topic.
It's great.
Because it's so diverse. Like, you don't, it's so, like, short term, medium term, long term. You can just apply it to so many different aspects in everything you do.
Definitely. And I think the beautiful thing is, like anything, like, really start small, but start today. All we're doing is talking about being a now person. So if I tell someone to, like, start tomorrow, that's when. Start now. Every single person listening to this can start today. So on that, I think the challenge for me is when you finish listening to this podcast, like, get a pen, get a paper, think about something that you want to do in your life, whether it is like a physical feat, whether it's like a feat in school, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, and put a date to it. It can be literally something as small as, like, drinking, I don't know, X amount of liters today. Like, if you want to start drinking more water, tell yourself you're drinking 3 liters by the end of the day and just get it done.
Just do it.
Just do it.
And don't tell anyone. I love that idea of not telling anyone. It's like, or if you, again, that is contradicting what we were saying before, but with these smaller goals, it's like, do it for yourself, especially if you haven't built that skill of being accountable for yourself. It's like, just don't tell anyone, because sometimes that's the hardest thing, is that you do something great and then you just really want to tell someone. It's like, well, that probably means you didn't do it for you. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
That is the absolute most important. I remember I was watching a video clip and we were on the top of Mount Exmouth in Warrumbungle National Park, and you were talking to your brother Finn, and I came over later, and you, like, recounted the story. You said, like, Finn and I were just chatting, like, Finn got some photos, and you were like, oh, like, are you gonna post them? And Finn's like, no, like, why would I do that? And you were like, that just speaks to why he's out here. Like, Finn is out on that mountain for himself. We love to tell people of our accomplishments, our feats, because it boosts us. It makes us feel great. Like, last night, literally, I was like, I fell into that because yesterday I had a big day, and I'm telling people right now, but not for the sake of boosting myself, purely just for, like, an example.
Sake.
Had a big day, like, woke up at 3:30, went to bed at, like, 11, just worked, grinded. And,
Savage.
like, I wanted to tell people, so I told you and Pat. And it made me feel good to tell people. But I wasn't doing it for myself then. It's not genuine and authentic to me.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, seeing Finn, a 17-year-old kid, having, like, the self-awareness to be on top of that mountain, knowing why he's up there is truly, truly beautiful. So like on that, if you need to tell people, like set the date and that'll help put pressure, but just know why you're doing it. Make sure you're doing it for yourself, because you're going to be the only person to get yourself out of bed at 4 a.m. Your friend that you told isn't going to come to your house and be like, dude, you said you were going to like run this marathon, get up, go for a run. Like you have to be the one to pull yourself out of bed. So yeah, get cracking. Just get cracking right now.
Get after it.
Definitely.
Yeah, dude. 100%. I freaking love this topic. It's so good. I'm sure we'll revisit it, but it's just like, and it always changes, and I think just letting it apply to different aspects of your life and let it in. Don't deny that there is now versus when in everything you do, even if you don't think it's there. But yeah, man, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Get cracking.
Yep. We'll see you next time, baby. On 2G, 1C.
Love you all. Stay safe and be a now person.
Be a now person.
Bye.
Bye.